Today I want to do something that is an extension of yesterday's conversation around how to be well informed and building a mental model. I was watching back the video that I made, and I think that while a lot of it stays quite theoretical, I think it would be helpful to explain what it means to build a mental model in a more practical way. And maybe that could be a little bit more informative as to what I'm trying to grasp at. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to try and explain the different collection of core ideas that are currently shaping the mental model of how I understand the world of politics and the problems in society today. This is not necessarily a political video, but it's just a demonstration of how I am understanding the events that are taking place in the world and within the context of everything else that I know. And so I think if you understand the ideas that I am the ideas that I am absorbing all the new information through, you will get a clearer picture of how I try to understand new events as they come up. There's basically, I think, 4 ideas that I want to lay out and hopefully demonstrate how you can absorb new news stories and events that take place into your understanding of the world after laying out these four ideas. The first one is something that I learnt primarily through a class that I took at university around the partition of India and Pakistan. And the phenomenon that I then started to notice across history more broadly and also today is that in times of scarcity or perceived scarcity, people will retreat into an in-group, whatever that is. That could be your town, it could be a race, it could be a class, it could be a bunch of things. It doesn't quite matter, but people will identify with an in-group and then retreat into their in-group in times of scarcity and then demonize an out-group for that scarcity through righteous anger. And there is a danger to that because being in the in-group, it's very difficult, if not impossible sometimes, to really clearly identify whether or not your righteous anger is justified or if you're in a filter bubble or echo chamber. And this is how you get polarization and radicalization as a result of that. So if this is one of the ideas that I try to understand the world through, there's another idea that I have to sort of connect to this about scarcity. What does it mean for something to be scarce, and why are we living in a time of scarcity? And that connects to a different idea that I try and understand the world through around the cost of living crisis. And when I look at the cost of living crisis and I ask the question of why this is happening and how this is happening, I land on a couple different ideas. But the simplest one is this concept of the K-shaped economy. So the way to explain this is if you look at the shape of a K, one line is going up in a exponential fashion, and then the other line is going down in an exponential fashion. And the K-shaped economy describes this phenomenon of a group of really wealthy people, and I'm not talking the ultra wealthy, it could be the upper middle class and the upper class even, having a pretty good time. These are the asset holders, the people who have money in the stock market and are seeing their returns go to the moon, right? While everyone else in the economy is really suffering and getting squeezed. And the problem with that is that on average, things look really good because the top part of the K-shaped economy is propping up all of the statistics around GDP, unemployment, income, taxation, all of this stuff. And so you have this phenomenon around the cost of living crisis, which sort of makes the data and the people who are trying to understand this through statistics a little bit more blind to the reality on the ground. Because one way to really demonstrate this is the statement, on average, nobody is starving, could be true, given how many calories people consume across the world. On average, every human being has enough consumes enough calories to not starve. But we know that's not the case because there's a distribution of calories across the world. And this is sort of how the K-shaped economy is behaving as well in terms of analysis. So if that's the case, and I understand that the way that economic information is being analyzed might be a little bit more optimistic than what's actually happening, you can see how there may be a lot more scarcity in people's lives than is being made out to be in the news. And because of that, you can see these two ideas interacting. When people are surprised with increasing radicalization, I find myself less surprised because I see these two ideas that are part of my mental model interacting in a way that makes sense to me. And these two ideas connect with another idea around nihilism and existentialism that is on the rise, particularly amongst Gen Z, which is that people who don't have assets or capital don't necessarily become existential or nihilistic or openly revolt against the system until they feel a sense that they have no opportunity to gain assets. So this is another form of scarcity. There are people who might not have much today, but they feel that in their future they will be able to, climb up the ladder, so to speak. Those people are willing to participate in society and be positive contributors to society. But when the scarcity in people's lives result in the idea being sort of planted in their heads that maybe there is no path to a house or a respectable life where you're not working 80-hour weeks, 100-hour weeks just to get by, you stop seeing the system as something that you can participate in, and you retreat into a smaller and smaller in-group. And that can ultimately lead to radicalization and nihilism. So these three ideas are part of my mental model that partially explain many, many news stories that you might be seeing across the last few years and into the future. And because of that, as new news stories break, part of my understanding of what is happening is an extension of this collection of ideas, and I'm trying to situate different news stories in this web of ideas. So if you look at the violence that you see in America with a lot of these sort of lone shooters, for example, these people, I think, can be partially explained. Obviously, everything's specific and unique. Each case can be slightly different, but partially explained by this collection of ideas. So that's just a sort of practical demonstration of what I was trying to get across yesterday with the idea of a mental model. Outside of the world of politics or the economy, this is also true for me when it comes to YouTube. I have a mental model of how I understand the YouTube algorithm to work, and I continuously update that as I gain new information and see new types of videos do well on the platform. And over the last 6 or 7 years, this mental model has been refined to a place that I can really accurately predict, I wouldn't say really accurately predict what will do well on YouTube and what won't. And then I can transfer that into a practical skill. So that's that taste thing that I was talking about before. That's basically the thought. I just thought I would do a demonstration of what I was really trying to get at yesterday in a way that was less abstract. I hope that was interesting. And yeah.